Thanks to Conflict of Nations for sponsoring this video. Conflict of Nations is a free online PvP strategy game. Choose a real country to lead in a modern global warfare. Fight up to 128 other players in real time in games that can take weeks to complete. This is my favorite aspect of Conflict of Nations. Use many different units to build your army, tanks, jets, nuclear submarines. Declare war to your neighbors or forge alliances with other players. Choose your own strategy, engage in epic battles and take over the world. You can play with the same account on both PC and mobile. You get an exclusive gift. Click on the link in the description to get 30,000 gold and 1 month of premium subscription for free. Offer only available for 30 days. Don't lose time. Hello my dear friends, you're in the Military Summary channel. In this short video we're going to discuss the most important events that took place during the previous night of the local time. And of course the most important updates, as usual these days, are coming from the town by the name of Очеретино. As you can see, we have adjusted the map because we start receiving geolocations confirming the complete Russian control over the southern part of the stronghold by the name of Очеретино. Some sources reported, let's say at the beginning of the morning, more precisely even yesterday in the evening, that Russians managed to improve their positions just in the, let's say, southeastern part of Очеретино, and that was probably approximately the Russian control by the beginning of this morning. We have some updates from the deep state map, confirms some progress or some control of 20 or 30% of the southern part of the stronghold. The Russian sources reported that the Russians established complete control not just over the southern part of Очеретино, the residential part that's located to the south of the railways. The Russians also managed to improve their positions to the north, and basically the Russians control around 50% of Очеретино, but this information wasn't confirmed by any geolocations, just by the report from the ground. So if we summarize everything and if we include the report, unconfirmed report from Russian sources, this is approximately the territory of Russian control, the southern part and the central part. And just this morning of the local time, right before we start making the video, we got the final geolocated confirmation of Russian control. This is the video. This is the part of video I'm talking about. So on this video, on this part of the video, we can see the Ukrainian Bradley coming inside of Очеретино and attacking the Russian positions in the southwestern part of the town. So if we return back on map, the Ukrainian Bradley was moving along this street. The Ukrainian Bradley reached this area, and from this position, so let's once again, the Ukrainian Bradley reached this part of Очеретино, and from these positions, the Ukrainian Bradley was attacking the Russian soldiers inside of the buildings on the southwestern part of the stronghold. So he was attacked on this direction, the Ukrainian Bradley was attacking in this direction. So that video confirmed Russian control over this part as well. So we can see the situation is very critical, and if the information with the Russian control in the central part confirmed, then we can make a conclusion that the Очеретино, we can start counting days before Очеретино falls. Furthermore, the sources reported that Ukrainians were forced to redeploy the forces of 47th Mechanized Brigade to Очеретино with the purpose to stabilize the situation. As we discussed in the previous update, when talking about stabilization of situation, it is always, let's say some actions that completely connected with the heavy losses from, let's say, the side who tries to stabilize the area. So basically, the stabilization, it's like let's counter attacks and attacks. So the situation when you don't have, let's say, less losses in comparison with other side, you have almost the same or sometimes even more losses. So let's wait for more updates for 22nd of April. Very likely, most likely, the Russians will continue improving their positions, and most likely today we're going to receive more updates from the western part of Очеретино, maybe even from the northern part of Очеретино, and the most important from the eastern part of Очеретино, which will allow the Russians to start and or even to complete the clashes and offensive inside of Keramik and Novokalinovo. Meanwhile, the Russians continue pummeling and reducing Novokalinovo till ruins, preparing the foothold for final offensive operation from the Russian side. So the situation is very critical, as we understand, and currently nobody can tell for sure how exactly the Ukrainians are going to slow down the Russians, because obviously the forces of 47th Mechanized Brigade is not enough to stabilize their area, because the forces of 47th Mechanized Brigade used to be located located in the vicinity of Berdiche, so the main area of responsibility were Berdiche and the fields from to the west of the town. And now, due to the fact that Ukrainians have redeployed these forces to the north, this confirms that most likely the Russians will be able to capture the fields, Semyonovka, Berdiche fields between Novobakhmutovka and Durna River completely. So I'm saying that about this part of the foothold. Once again, most likely due to the redeployment and reconfiguration of the front line from the Ukrainian side, this part of the foothold, this part of the area will be captured by the Russians within the next 48-72 hours. So, and this will lead to another critical situation, the beginning of clashes for this settlement by the name of Solovyova. So we'll see what is going to be next. Now we're moving to Pervomayskaya area. Some Russian sources reported that as a result of clashes during the previous 24 hours, the Russians established complete control over the fields between Nivolskaya and Pervomayskaya, yet we haven't received any geolocations or proofs from different sources, just one mappers updated the maps. If today we're going to receive more updates like from Deep State or let's say from Syriac, then we will adjust the color of map as well, at least into the gray zone. So we will not change the color until we will receive some geolocated videos, but at least we will remove the yellow color. Interesting details are coming from Novomikhailivka. If you know that, if you remember, we were talking that the Russian sources reported that Russians established complete control over the village. The Ukrainians were saying that just 90% of the village was or is under Russian control, and many other different neutral and pro-Ukraine mappers continue saying that a part of Novomikhailivka still let's say was under Ukraine control. But today we got the official statements of the 79th Air Mobile Brigade, the brigade who was responsible for defense of the territory, and today they stated that Novomikhailivka was completely captured by the Russians. So just this morning on the 22nd of April, they stated that Ukrainians, under very heavy pressure from the Russian side, were forced to fall back from the Mashinostrelitsy residential area, and the Russians established complete control. So I expect that today the Minister of Defense of Russian Federation will confirm this situation, will confirm the Russian control, and then there are going to be no more doubts. Also, the Ukrainians are saying that they understand that the next step from the Russian side is to attack Paraskovyevka, because if the Russians are able to enter Paraskovyevka from the east, then the Russians will be able to get as close as possible to Konstantinovka and to even establish complete fire control over the main supply roads, over the main road that goes from Konstantinovka to Pobeda. And this will allow the Russians, of course, to increase their activity and to activate their movements from Pobeda to Konstantinovka as well, because the Ukrainians will lose possibilities to send forces here. But before entering Paraskovyevka, as I understand, the Russians will try to maintain the line of combat contact to reduce the gray zone, and basically this is probably approximately and probably the next Russian, let's say, goal, to capture the fields between Novomikhailivka and Pobeda, just to shorten the, let's say, the corridors, to maintain supply roads, to regroup, reorganize the front line, and then to start moving also in direction of Konstantinovka from Pobeda, because obviously now it's time to start these movements as well. Furthermore, the Ukrainians of 79th Brigade continue telling, let's say, sending complaints on the commanders, saying that the loss of Novomikhailivka completely under the responsibilities of Ukrainian generals, Ukrainian commanders, because they're saying that they were defending the town as long as it was possible, but at some point the Ukrainians stopped sending them ammunition, reinforcements, and that forced the 79th Air Mobile Brigade to leave their positions and to fall back towards Paraskovyevka. So now Paraskovyevka is the next defense belt of armed forces of Ukraine. We can't tell for sure when exactly the Russians are going to start moving in this direction, maybe today, maybe after a short operational pause, but as I understand, the Russians don't have a lot of time. They need to achieve as much as possible until the first military package aid arrives in Ukraine. So I believe that very soon we're going to start receiving first updates from Paraskovyevka and Konstantinovka as well from Ugledar, because obviously if Konstantinovka falls, falls, or even not falls, but if Konstantinovka is being blocked by the Russians from different directions, this will allow the Russians to activate their movements in direction of Ugledar as well. So the situation continues to develop, not in Ukrainian favor. Chasiv Yar, we haven't received almost anything from the direction, just significant number of FAPs in the eastern part of the stronghold, which probably confirms the Russian, let's say, attempts and Russian plans to start the ground operation, because the Russians have been bombing this part of Chasiv Yar for the previous 2-3 weeks. Obviously, they managed to they dealt significant damage to constructions, to fortifications, to strongholds, to shelters. So it's about time to start the ground operation. So most likely during the next 72 hours, the Russians will make first attempts to attack the eastern part of Chasiv Yar with the purpose to establish complete control, to encircle and to force the Ukrainians in the area to surrender. Furthermore, we got some more details and reports about 67th and 25th Brigades. According to information we have, 67th Brigade will be disbanded, 25th probably will be disbanded as well, and most of under these decisions, the Ukrainians decided to do this due to the losses, and that, for example, the first 200 soldiers of 25th Brigade surrendered and 67th Brigade left their positions, which leads to complete collapse of the Ukrainian defense in the vicinity of Chasiv Yar and in Chasiv Yar itself. So also another critical situation. Very interesting details we start receiving from the line between Orekhovo-Vasilievka and Grigorovka. For the first time, probably since for the previous, let's say, 6 months, we received something from the direction. The Russians start bombing and attacking the Ukrainian positions, which probably confirms something like artillery preparations, the beginning of the clearing operation before further offensive operation on the line Dubovo-Vasilievka, Orekhovo-Vasilievka, Novomarkovo. So if the Russians want to establish control over Chasiv Yar and to move further to Slaviansk, obviously sooner or later they will be forced, they will have to start moving this direction as well. So most likely that artillery preparation, those artillery preparation actions were, let's say, about to begin another offensive to Canal. So as far as possible from Chasiv Yar, trying to keep some distance between the Ukrainians and the Russian soldiers and forces. We have lots of interesting updates from Kiev itself on political events. Zelensky is very happy. He received another $61 billion. He's very happy. He's saying that Ukraine now received another, let's say, batch, another piece of hope for winning. I'm not sure what was he talking about, but later he stated that Ukraine still needs more money, not just 61 billion is not enough, but the problem is that his president terms will be finished by the 21st of May. I'm not sure how the Western countries are going to continue to support him after the date. Furthermore, Zelensky stated that after the end of Ukraine, Russia will start offensive in direction of the Baltic states. So he's trying to manipulate the opinions with the Western countries, trying to force them to send him additional help and additional money. The important thing that United States of America is going to send Ukraine the ATACMS missiles with a distance of 300 kilometers, which probably most likely the United States of America in Ukraine are planning to start attacking and bombing the Russian headquarters. So and this stage of the first special military operation, it's very important for Ukrainians and for the Western countries, for NATO, to cut the head of Russian military forces. So to destroy headquarters of brigades, of divisions, of, let's say, even the entire special military operation. And most likely during the next few months, Valery Gerasimov will be the main target for the Ukrainians. They will try to hunt him and to kill him with this type of weapon or with any other type of weapon, because they understand that he knows for sure the plans. He can coordinate, and he was very successful during the previous year in the special military operations, so probably they decided to do this. So we'll see whether it can do this or not, but something tells me that the Russians also understand the risks and they will do everything they can, but not to allow this situation to happen. And once again, according to the sources, in end of May, the beginning of June, the Russians will launch their own greatest Russian offensive operation, and currently nobody can tell for sure what exactly the Russians are planning to do and how much the Russians are going to take. And that's it for the short video. Military Summary channel reminds to condemn any violence in the world. Thank you for watching. Subscribe to my channel, put your likes, join my Patreon, and have a good day. Bye bye. Conflict of Nations is a free online PvP strategy game happening in the modern global warfare. Choose your own strategy, engage in epic battles and take over the world. You get an exclusive gift. Click on the link in the description to get 30,000 gold and 1 month of premium subscription for free. Offer only available for 30 days. Don't lose time.